The sky over Krythos 9 was a deep burning red, a constant reminder of the planet's harshness. Smoke and ash drifted from the industrial complexes that scarred the landscape, filling the air with a bitter smell that clung to the skin. Lyra moved carefully among the wreckage of abandoned machinery, her small alien frame hunched with exhaustion. She had nothing left. Her family was gone, taken by a mining accident that could have been prevented. A disaster the syndicate blamed on worker negligence. The corporate enforcers had offered nothing. No help, no compensation, no justice. Just empty words and cold, indifferent eyes. For days she had wandered the industrial wastelands, scavenging for scraps of food, anything that might keep her alive another night. Her stomach ached constantly and her limbs felt like lead, but fear drove her forward. She could not let herself stop, not now. The drones were still out there, patrolling in their silent, relentless way. They had already captured many like her, and she knew that being caught would mean permanent imprisonment or worse. As she slipped through the shadows of rusted pipelines and collapsed structures, Lyra remembered the faces of the people she had lost. Her parents had been kind and careful, always warning her about the dangers of the syndicate. Her little brother, innocent and trusting, had believed that the world could be fair. Now she had to survive not just for herself but in memory of them. A lump rose in her throat, but she swallowed it down. Survival came first. The forest at the edge of the industrial zone was her only hope. Its dense trees and twisting roots had long been a place where the syndicate's reach was weaker. If she could reach it, maybe she could find a hiding spot, maybe even freedom. But reaching it would not be easy. Patrol drones hovered above, scanning for heat signatures. Lyra moved with all the silence she could muster, her heart pounding with every mechanical whir and click she heard behind her. Suddenly, a sharp light swept across her path. A drone had spotted her. She froze, thinking for a split second of running, but she knew the machine would follow instantly. It hovered closer, its scanners sweeping over her small form. Panic clawed at her chest. This was it. She would be captured. But then, out of nowhere, a figure appeared, a human soldier. His movements were precise and deliberate. He raised a small weapon and fired a pulse that disabled the drone instantly. Another pulse, and the remaining drones fell from the sky with sparks flying. Lyra could hardly believe her eyes. The human extended his arm toward her and, with a calm voice that seemed almost impossible in that moment of terror, said, "You're safe now." Lyra hesitated. She had learned the hard way that trust was dangerous, but something in his stance, his determination, made her believe him. Trembling, she took a step forward, then another, until she was finally standing beside him. He held a large mechanical door open, a portal into a dark, quiet structure that seemed almost impossible after the chaos outside. With one last look at the industrial wasteland, Lyra stepped inside. The interior was dimly lit, but it felt warm and safe compared to the burning sky outside. The human guided her to a cot and handed her a small ration of food. She ate cautiously, her hands shaking. She had not eaten a proper meal in days. "You'll need your strength," the human said. "I'm Marcus. We don't have much time and we need to move carefully." Lyra nodded, too exhausted to speak. Her body ached, but for the first time in days she felt relief wash over her. Someone was helping her. Someone had chosen to protect her. Over the next few hours she learned more about Marcus and the small group he belonged to. They were humans who had chosen to fight against the syndicate, not for profit or glory, but to save those who were being exploited. They had been hiding in the forest for months, rescuing aliens like her, providing safe passage and a chance at freedom. As Lyra listened, a cautious hope began to grow inside her. Maybe she could survive. Maybe she could be more than just a victim. She felt a strange sense of awe at Marcus, who had risked his life to save her without hesitation. It was a stark contrast to everything she had known in the colony, where every action seemed measured by profit, fear, or control. The next morning, Marcus woke her before dawn. "We need to move," he said. "The syndicate knows someone escaped. They'll be sending more drones soon. Follow me and stay quiet." Lyra followed him through narrow passages and hidden tunnels that she would have missed if not guided. The forest outside welcomed them, dense and tangled, but it also hid them. As they moved, Marcus explained the Resistance's goals: to disrupt the syndicate, to rescue those trapped, and eventually to create a network of safe havens for aliens across multiple planets. Lyra's mind was spinning. She had never imagined such a network existed. humans who cared enough to act. She felt a deep admiration for Marcus and his team, but also a lingering fear. Could she truly trust these humans, or was this just another trap? Her doubts were interrupted by the sound of pursuit. The Syndicate's drones had not given up. They moved swiftly, cutting through the forest with lethal precision. Marcus raised a hand, signaling her to stop. He crouched, whispering instructions for evading detection. Every step was measured. Every breath was calculated. Lyra felt a surge of adrenaline mixed with fear. She had never been this close to danger and yet felt the strange comfort of someone guiding her through it. As they ran, Lyra began to notice small details she had missed before. The forest was alive with strange luminescent plants and alien birds that had long adapted to Krythos 9's harsh environment. She allowed herself a moment to marvel, realizing that life existed beyond the industrial wasteland. Perhaps there was more to the universe than suffering and loss. They reached a hidden glade where the rest of the human resistance waited. Marcus introduced her briefly, and though the humans were wary, they offered nods of acknowledgement. Lyra felt a sense of belonging she had not experienced before. She was still cautious, but the seed of trust had been planted. Night fell, and with it came the sounds of distant drones and the occasional flash of light as patrols scoured the forest. Lyra lay on a cot staring at the ceiling of the hideout. She thought of her family, of the life she had lost, and of the uncertain path ahead. Yet she also thought of Marcus and the simple words that had saved her life. "You're safe now." The phrase echoed in her mind, a mantra against despair. For the first time in weeks, she slept without fear, if only lightly, knowing that someone had chosen to protect her. And in that small glimmer of safety, she found the strength to survive another day. The next morning brought a new challenge. Marcus explained that the Syndicate would not rest, that the danger was far from over. Lyra would need to learn to defend herself, to think quickly, and to trust her instincts. The forest offered safety, but it also required vigilance. Lyra felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. But she did not shrink from it. She began training under Marcus's guidance, learning how to move silently, how to use the tools of survival, and how to anticipate the drone's patterns. Her body grew stronger, her mind sharper, and her fear began to transform into determination. Each day she gained more confidence in herself and more faith in the humans who had chosen to help her. By the end of Part 1, Lyra had begun to embrace the idea that her life could have purpose again. She was no longer entirely alone. A human had held a door open for her, and in doing so had changed the course of her life. That single act of courage had given her hope, and hope was more powerful than fear. For the first time since the disaster, she dared to imagine a future beyond survival, a future where she could fight, live, and perhaps even find joy in a universe that had once seemed so cruel. And though the forest outside was still dark and full of unseen dangers, Lyra knew one truth with absolute certainty. She was safe now, and for the first time in her life she was ready to reclaim it. Lyra awoke to the soft hum of the forest surrounding the hidden human safe house. The sunlight filtering through the dense canopy painted the room in dappled shades of green and gold. She stretched carefully, feeling muscles she hadn't realized were sore from yesterday's training. Marcus had already been up for hours, moving quietly around the small space, checking supplies and monitoring sensors. "Morning," he said, giving her a small nod. "Today we start preparing for the raid." Lyra's stomach twisted at the word. A raid. It sounded dangerous, almost impossible, but the determination in Marcus's eyes left no room for doubt. He was human, yes, but he was also a soldier, a protector, someone who fought not for himself but for others. If anyone could lead her through this, it was him. Marcus explained the plan. The Syndicate's main industrial complex was heavily guarded, with layers of drones, security cameras, and patrols. But it was also the center of operations where countless aliens were held in servitude. If they could infiltrate it, even for a short time, they could free dozens of innocents. Lyra's knowledge of the colony would be crucial. She knew hidden tunnels, blind spots, and the routines of the guards. "You will guide us," Marcus said. "I need you to stay close, but also remember you are not just helping, you are surviving." The words hit Lyra harder than she expected. She had been surviving so far on instinct, on fear, but now she realized that survival was only the first step. She could fight back. She could make a difference. A spark of courage lit inside her. By midday, the team moved through the forest, keeping to shadows and avoiding patrol drones. Lyra led the way, her eyes scanning every movement, every rustle of leaves. Marcus stayed close, always alert, always calm, a steady presence that made the danger seem manageable. The humans and aliens in the team moved silently, their steps in sync, a perfect rhythm born of necessity. As they approached the industrial complex, Lyra's pulse quickened. The towering metal walls of the facility rose above them, black smoke curling into the sky. The hum of machinery, the sharp clank of metal, the distant shouts of workers, all of it reminded her of the world she had fled. Fear threatened to overtake her, but she pushed it down. Marcus was beside her, watching her carefully, and that silent support gave her strength. The first challenge was the perimeter. The walls were lined with sensors, and drones patrolled the area constantly. Lyra led the team to a narrow drainage tunnel she had discovered as a child, a forgotten escape route that no one else seemed to know. They slipped inside, the smell of damp metal filling their noses. Each step echoed softly, a reminder that even small mistakes could be deadly. Inside the complex, chaos seemed inevitable, but the team moved with surprising precision. Marcus had mapped out the facility's layout, and Lyra guided them through maintenance corridors, stairwells, and ventilation shafts. Every step was calculated, every movement rehearsed. Yet even with careful planning, the danger was real. Drones swept past, lights flashing. Guards appeared around corners. Lyra's heart pounded, but she had grown stronger, braver. She stayed calm, whispering directions, moving as if she had been born for this moment. When they reached the holding area where captive aliens were kept, Lyra froze for a moment. The rows of exhausted, frightened beings reminded her of her own helplessness. Their eyes widened with hope when they saw her and the humans. She realized the weight of what she was doing. She had not only survived, she was now part of giving others a chance at freedom. The team worked quickly. Marcus and the other humans disabled drones and locks while Lyra helped guide the captives out of their cages. The facility was a maze and time was limited. Lyra moved with urgency, her mind sharp, her body moving automatically. The sound of approaching guards reminded her that every second counted. They reached a large exit door, the final barrier between them and freedom. Marcus approached it first, using a hacking device to override the security system. Lyra's hands trembled slightly, not from fear but from adrenaline and anticipation. Finally, the door hissed open, revealing the forest beyond. One by one, the captives ran toward the safety of the trees, guided by Lyra and the team. The humans formed a protective line, fending off guards and drones. Marcus caught Lyra's eye and gave a small, encouraging nod. She smiled faintly, feeling a sense of accomplishment that she had never thought possible. The syndicate was not idle. Drones surged toward them, lights cutting through the darkness. A skirmish broke out with Marcus and the humans using both weapons and strategy to hold them off. Lyra found herself improvising, using debris and machinery to block pathways, creating distractions and helping the captives escape. Her fear was gone, replaced by a fierce determination. Every action she took mattered. Every life she could save made her feel alive in a way she had not felt since her family was lost. After what felt like hours but was only minutes, the team reached the edge of the forest. The night was quiet, the red sky dimming as dawn approached. Exhausted but victorious, they paused to catch their breath. Lyra looked around at the aliens and humans who had survived with them. They were weary, dirty, and scared, but they were free. Marcus approached her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You did well," he said quietly. "You guided us, you protected them. You were brave." Lyra felt a warmth she had not expected. She had thought safety was just a door held open by someone else. Now she realized it was also about the courage to step through that door, to act when it mattered most. She had survived, yes, but she had also grown. She had fought. She had made a difference. The forest was still dangerous, but Lyra no longer felt like a victim. She was part of a team, part of something bigger than herself. Humans, aliens, resistance fighters, united against a common enemy, bound by courage and compassion. For the first time in her life, she believed in hope, in the possibility of a future that was not dictated by fear and oppression. As the sun rose over Krithos 9, the hidden safe house welcomed them back. Lyra found herself reflecting on how much had changed in a single day. She had gone from being alone, hunted and helpless, to being a key part of a mission that had saved countless lives. The human who had once simply held a door open for her had sparked a transformation she could never have imagined. The following days were filled with rebuilding, planning, and healing. Lyra trained with the humans, learned strategies for survival, and grew stronger both physically and emotionally. She became a symbol of hope for the rescued aliens, a living reminder that courage, trust, and compassion could overcome even the darkest oppression. Marcus never left her side, offering guidance without commanding, support without overbearing authority. Lyra came to understand that being safe was more than just the absence of danger. Safety was trust, companionship, and the courage to face the future no matter how uncertain. Weeks passed and Lyra's confidence grew. The forest no longer felt like a place to hide, but a place to live, to plan, and to dream. She and Marcus often stood at the edge of the tree line, looking out toward the industrial wasteland they had escaped, imagining a day when freedom could stretch across the entire planet. One evening, after a long day of training and preparing for future missions, Lyra sat beside Marcus, watching the stars appear in the darkening sky. She realized she was no longer defined by her losses. The fear that had once consumed her had been replaced by resolve, strength, and a belief in the goodness that still existed in the universe. "I never thought I'd survive," she said softly. Marcus looked at her, listening. "You didn't just survive," he replied. "You fought. You helped others survive. That's more than most can do." Lyra smiled faintly, feeling a lightness she had not known in months. She thought of the moment she had stepped through the door Marcus had held open, uncertain and scared. That single act had changed everything. It had given her life back, and in the process it had given her a chance to make a difference. She knew the journey ahead would not be easy. The syndicate was still out there, and danger would always lurk in the shadows. But for the first time she was not afraid. She had allies, skills, and the courage to face whatever came next. And she had hope, a fragile but powerful force that would guide her through every challenge. As the night deepened, Lyra closed her eyes and let herself feel the safety she had found. She was no longer alone. She was part of a team, a cause, a future, and she knew that no matter what the universe threw at her, she would face it with strength, courage, and the memory of the human who had held a door open and said, "You're safe now." For Lyra, that simple act of compassion had been the beginning of everything, a reminder that even in a harsh, dangerous universe, courage and kindness could change lives. And with that thought, she drifted into a deep, peaceful sleep, ready to embrace whatever adventures awaited her next.